Hello, this is the artist in the ICU, songwriters, producers, person who does all the stuff, commentary by Monk. Record starts out with rain. This is more than one night when I was in the ICU this past visit where it was raining and I was really depressed and I was just looking out the window, tiny little window that I had in my room. And I felt really corny, but I just made a mental note. It's really all you can do when you're in the hospital. I don't know how it is for other folks, but I don't have very many visitors, so I end up spending a lot of time just sitting there thinking with a TV playing quietly in the background, which I don't watch much TV, So that's usually when I catch up on House. Or whatever Anthony Bourdain show is out. It's usually how my hospital visits end up being. This track was actually recorded later in the process. I wanted to start the record out with like something a little more positive because the record does get depressing. But I mean, if you're ever sick in the hospital and you don't have any visitors and you feel awful, I have a heart condition, so sometimes I can't breathe and my heart feels like it's going to kill me. So in those times I feel really awful and I feel lonely and depressed, and I always try to inventory those feelings so that way I can write a song about it later. Not so much to create some kind of culture of like woe is me or create a pity party thing, but just the fact that I know how lonely I feel. I'm sure other people feel super lonely. So creating art, kind of explaining those moments to myself, and keeping an inventory of what it's like to be in those moments, and it makes me appreciate the other parts of my life and the ability to write songs about it, really, or make art about it. Basically, the theme of the record is, sickness under capitalism. It's ridiculous to deal with, We're meant to be productive 24 hours a day so that way we can create wealth for a vertical class. And anytime we're sick or we have a chronic illness, society kind of ostracizes you if you can't produce wealth for other people. All relationships are transactional under capitalism. What obedience costs. And I think a lot of these titles, whether they're cheeky, sarcastic, whatever, sardonic, between the styles that I chose to do, keeping a lot of it acoustic, between the vibe of the vocal performance and the lyrics and the song title, you can kind of get when I'm being sardonic or just dark. At least I hope you can. It makes perfect sense to me, but I guess I know me well. So maybe you have to ruminate on these. I wrote all of them starting the week after getting out of the ICU. I wanted to try to knock out the bulk of them before I started getting the bills, because I know that was going to be very depressing and I probably wouldn't feel like writing songs after that. So I knocked out most of these songs in about 3 weeks and wrote about 30 songs. And whittled it down to 17 that felt like they made sense together. And I kind of chose to do the production where it starts out hopeful, the somber, big. Then as the record goes down, it gets closer and closer and closer until it's just an acoustic guitar and a voice. There's lots of little things. If you listen to it with headphones on, you can hear cool little bits of things that I put in there. But overall, I'm not looking for like high fidelity. We're trying to make everything super clear. It's like I close my eyes and I hear the song in my head, and there's like a scene that's being played out or something. So sometimes the guitars sound a little cloudy and distant. It's not really about making the guitar sound dope or making me sound cool as a guitarist. I call it emotional mixing. A lot of times, musician friends, they've noted that some of the EQ on my mixing or whatever is a little goofy. But that's kind of the point. It's supposed to sound like dusty and cloudy and distant. Latest victims of capitalism. This one's kind of mostly true. Most of the stories in this is like kind of from my life. I don't get too hard into specifics, but I mean, if you listen to the lyrics, poverty does a lot of weird shit to people. Puts holes in our brains. And I'm glad at least I've gotten to the age where I can kind of forgive all the crazy adults I had around me when I was a kid. Not that I'm in any kind of position to forgive anyone or to account for other folks' sin, but like as far as I'm concerned, most folks, I don't think they know what they're doing when they're fucking you up as a kid. Because it is generational trauma. Everybody's always passing down the pain that they felt, thinking that it's like a lesson, there's some kind of lesson to be learned. But it's weird, self-hating, punitive, goofy behavior. If you want to be radical, you have to be full of light and hope, and also be full of resolution, you know? Some kind of spiritual constitution. That includes radical forgiveness and just like it's enough for people to suffer their own comprehension of things, to torture themselves and the self-destruct and hurt the people around them and feel alienated by everyone, you know? And holding grudges only hurts us, and honestly, people can't understand until they understand. So holding on to your personal hate towards folks, it's just not a healthy thing to do. Healthiest thing you could do is at some point maybe try to understand why. And if you can't, then that's fine too. I don't know. You gotta try different things though, I know that much. You poison yourself holding on to weird stuff towards other people. Also, it feels good to let people go. Let go of the violence. Let go of all the stupid shit. There's been a lot of times over my life where I was afraid to just be straightforward and honest and stuff, and I feel like I've gotten that way in my songwriting, finally. This one's called Weak in the Hope Department. Seems self-explanatory, but feels like best you could hope for is to be a martyr. So anyone doing good's gotta die. And I guess that's why everybody's a hyper-individualist, and they think they do all the mind tricks to try to trick themselves into thinking that like being selfish is actually good for everybody. To absolve themselves of their consumption habits and stuff. Their aspirations of, material mask. Build your identity from the things you collect. The way you manipulate others. The way you manipulate the government and the market and death denial. This has probably got the best groove on the album, but I wasn't really going for groove for the record. That would be a completely different album. This album's more of like I was looking for some kind of acoustic swing, like death swing or something. Something about being in the hospital just made it to where when I got out, I was like, I need to sing. I need to sing something mid-tempo and just somber and breathy and lots of timbre and texture and subtle syncopation. But, swing. I think a lot of these songs do have a little bit of swing on them. At the very least, in all the vocal performances that I did. And the way my brain works as a songwriter, I could do something just straightforward, genre specific, and reference a genre. But I'd much rather kind of find a way to walk backwards into it. Like on this one, I started with the guitar. And I was like, I think there's a way to make this guitar part a little groovy. It's like I just have to do everything and drag everything a certain way. And that became like the challenge. Okay, this one's called Too Ugly to Love. Which I put a song like this on every record. which is just a song about, women I've dated in the past like called me ugly or told me that women weren't attracted to me, like I guess abusive women and stuff. And then ever since then, just to get the sting of it off of me or whatever, I make jokes about me being ugly. And it's just so I don't like feel such a hard sting when I'm dating an abusive narcissist and they tell me that I'm too ugly to love or something. It happens every now and then. And it was such a strong feeling the couple of times that it's happened with the women that I've dated that like I just always try to include some song about like longing that someone would value you the way you value them. I mean, you can't really do it. You can't really like stay in those type of relationships, but it's more about writing about the feeling of being in that situation, not promoting it, just recognizing, oh shit, yeah, this is where I'm at. This person don't give two shits about me at all. Like I'm like a person that they can fire at any moment. So I'm just like an employee to them. But yeah, it's tongue in cheek. It's not like super serious or anything. I guess I grew up in a time where like self-deprecation and irony and sardonic bullshit was a great mask to like some horrific thing that you're trying to get over. Where you trusted somebody that you probably shouldn't have trusted. And then they pull their little mask off. And their little demon face comes out. And then they just say whatever they have to kind of like destroy you. And then they get to choose whether or not they're going to say sorry and give you some kind of value back. But, you can't get it from them. The song's called Spare Me the Fantasia. It's kind of about the same type of person, really. Pathological liar. Like someone who lies so much that they can't even remember what they told you last week. And how people look up to those types of people because they tell you whatever you want to hear. And that's why those folks can kind of swing from situation to situation. They're always working people. And people love to be worked. It's like people like customer service, The same thing with like relationships, I guess. They want you to do the customer service thing and the bottle service and the dance and the press your clothes a certain way and keep up with what's happening so that way you can wear the right current fashion, et cetera, et cetera. Big spectacle. And it makes it to where you don't ever have to work on any of the real stuff. Because you're always dancing out this little show and buying new costumes for the show and playing to an audience that isn't there. But you destroy your relationships to play to the audience that isn't there. And people are just neck deep in it. Like, go to their grave completely despiritualized, trying to climb a ladder to some vertical culture that doesn't really exist. It's creating a hyperspace of just like media. And really, it's like the way that people put the media together in their own minds. I'm not even sure if it's always like coordinated. It's like weather. It moves until it runs out. And it's cold fronts and warm fronts. And pressure. Just a lot of stuff going on. It is orchestrated, but it's like things kind of happen naturally within it. Like the spectacle, the collection, the mass culture, the simulation that's kind of happening that everybody's trying to join so that way they can protect themselves from the violent nature of capital. Folks don't want to be dispossessed, so they think they can get to the top by creating little power dynamics in their personal relationships and just riding those behaviors to the top. Just moving through people, collecting resources till you get to some safe place. But there isn't any safe place. Especially what it takes to get to these places. If everyone's lying, what's the value of anything, of anyone, of any kind of connection you have with people? But people tend to like, even love a beautiful liar more than they, like an honest potato man. Potato headed, ugly ass, whatever type dude or lady. Homely folks. The song's called Radio Rude. This one's kind of like about the power of music. And almost purely about the magic of music, which I know sounds pretentious, but really is. When I was younger, I used to listen to the radio 24 hours a day during the summer. Because we didn't have cable TV in some of the places that we lived, so all we had was the radio. I had my own little radio from my room, and the way my brain would light up when I heard a really good song, because I had my favorite ones that would pop up. It's like doing drugs. I was like in 7th grade. If I heard a cool song that I really liked, it's like I could tell that the chords and the guitar, I could hear everything. I would lay my head next to the stereo and sing along and just pretend that I was in the room with wherever the music was being made. It made me feel like I wasn't stuck in the room, I could feel the colors of the music. That's kind of what this song's about. And as I got older, what music meant. And like the ambiguity of life and music and songs and melodies and how we comfort ourselves. It's like a million different little details. If you get really deep into music, it's everything. And if you do it all the time, it's just, I don't know. It all becomes connected. The further you go up, the more you ascend, the more you feel less suffering and enlightened and all that everything's connected. That's why you feel a little more resolute the closer you get to death as you get older, is that you start to see how it's all connected, and that you can't fight it, and there's nothing to escape, there's nowhere to go. And the idea of Radio Rude is just like the idea of being emotionally dragged into something, and it's like I'm lost on something. It's like the Radio Rude pulling me out of what I was doing, kind of thing. I tend to write gibberish, but it makes for interesting songs. This song's called Flat Wonder, and it's about disobedience. The difference between being a dog who bites the person who's going to shoot him, with a dog who just kind of sits there and takes a slug to the head. Pretty straightforward. It's kind of the idea of like, are we going to live in fear? What are we going to do? You have that choice every day. Most people kind of choose the fear thing. And I understand though, especially if you find love at a young age, make a lot of sacrifices. I definitely understand that more being around my nephews and nieces. Some things are worth it. Because as you get older, the alienation under capitalism, it just gets denser. People are more pronounced in like their classism, and liberalism kind of implores classism. Everybody, I mean, that's the reason you go get educated, so that way you don't have to be a poor person and die early and die miserable. But yeah, the wonder part, the flat wonder part, it's like if you're born working class, the things that you get excited about are like just so ridiculously small compared to like what other folks might think. Maybe a general American might do for their birthday or something like that. There's things that are just, you know, considered good news. So it's like feeling wonder, feeling gratitude, but understanding that it's just like, yeah, but it's in a fucking brain dead gray matter world where we all produce the wealth of like an immutable upper class that works all of us every day from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. This song is called Socratic Yarble Soup. And this one is like the big question. Snake or the knife? You can play with the snake. You can take the knife. And it's about just being so fucking tired of like trying to like wrestle the existential question of like, how do I survive this another week? How do I push through? How do I grow? Where would I grow to? Grow like how? You know? Well, what's the point? It's a hamster wheel. We can only define ourselves through our consumption patterns and our like ability to, you know, perform gluttony and just stack inanimate objects next to our name and praise and define ourselves with like a curated prolificity where we control every little detail on a hyperspace, a digital plane. Just gets gruesome. My theory is that a lot of social media was made by the DoD and or funded by the DoD, and then it's a way for us to all out ourselves and our political beliefs and our identities and self-catalog, and they can control us even more. And then just fill our feeds with information and then, you know, reactionary and sycophant information about the same stories. And it's also a way to like metabolize culture and just material happenings. And as anything bubbles up, it gets co-opted and used. So organic movements may start out pure, but eventually co-opted, has like every 1 in 5 members of a group become like some undercover agent or something. And then you have all the bots posting and people start thinking that's real opinion. And so it's just about how like discourse is clouded and crazy. This song's called Forever Teen by Roberto Thomas, which is a joke on Forever Young by Bobby Dylan. But it's about how when I was younger, tattoos were bad, and people who had tattoos were bad, and now cops have tattoos, youth pastors have tattoos, youth pastors have like 2 divorces. I mean, like, it's... When I was young, people were goofy about that stuff, you know? They thought you were going to hell if you had a tattoo on you. And they treated you that way too. You know, they would say stuff to you. People were like emboldened. Because before the internet, people were just mean to people. And nobody ever heard about it. Nobody gave a shit. So nobody talked about it that much. But people were very judgmental, mean. And I still remember that version of religion and people acting that way. Which is a lot of times when I'm making references to things, that's what I'm talking about. The time before the internet, which is exactly how things are now. But, you know, there's this weird liberal mask on people now that they create through like social media, and they simulate the wins and their losses through fandom of binary politics and symbols and avatars of binary politics and culture and cultures like the chicken bones we toss now to read what the weather's going to be like or where we're at socially. And the reason we have to look to culture for all this stupid shit is because people are alienated from their peers. They don't look left or right. They don't organize that way. They don't think that way. They look up. Value. They look up where the opinions really matter. A vertical culture curated by coastal media class. Yeah, you can't be young forever. Eventually, we all become little mummies. This song's called Self-Emulation on Prison Planet. Immolation. I think that's how you say that. It's when you burn yourself in protest. That's what it's about. People hurting themselves to try to get a message across in the sea of digital detritus. Millions of opinions that don't matter about issues they don't care about. The man burns himself alive talking about something, so maybe people will talk about it at least for a day or two, and then he's gone forever. That's what the song's about. I saw the video, but I didn't watch all of it. When I was younger, I could handle stuff like that, but I can't do it anymore. It's too much. I know that he thinks, or at least I hope he did, thinks that that was going to be helpful. And maybe it was. And maybe it did make somebody think very seriously about it. So I don't know. It's hard for me to judge. I do know that it brought strong images of like a panopticon to me. Like people just staring into their screens, choosing their own realities. To the point where man has to burn himself alive to get people to talk about something for a little bit. It's a strange world we live in. And I feel a lot of weird feelings about it, to say the least. This song's called Retired Painter Dies Alone. And this one's just about spending your life doing things, trying to do things well in the material world, and maybe even people just fighting you every inch of the way. And trying to put yourself into that position, and like, how could you not feel like you wasted your time and your life or what you did, you know? The idea of like being really famous and dying alone, like the idea I use in this is like my granny taking care of people her whole life for no one to take care of her when she's getting towards the end of her life. And that's really what it's about, really, I guess. Is that, especially in the South, you know, there's these matriarchs that take care of the whole family, while the husband, even into his 60s or whatever, is maybe a drunk, or maybe it used to happen more often, but the mother would take care of the whole family and be overbearing towards the men in the family and other folks. So they just spend their whole life taking care of the entire family, and nobody ever learns how to take care of themselves. It's like a family of codependent folks. just thinking about all the complexities of having to deal with every time someone else does something that you didn't even tell them to do and you weren't around to do, you have to deal with it. But they're so selfish they can't even see it that way, you know. What I gotta be to avoid being used? Are there any lovers in the world? Yeah, it's just about soaking in those feelings. Really me thinking about my grandmother. And I wish I could tell her that I appreciate her being kind to me and taking care of me while my father was in prison, you know. This song's called Harry. This song's about self-isolating, pretty much. And what it feels like to be sick. And disassociating, you know. Because if you've ever had a chronic illness where you can't get past something and you're sick for multiple months, it makes you feel alien. Like you don't feel like your body is your own body because it's just constantly fighting you. When it's hard to breathe and it's hard to think and it's hard to sleep, it's hard to eat food. You just feel disconnected from your body. And that's what this song's kind of about. Being disconnected from your body and even kind of what that moment in infatuation, feeling that way. Like someone's rejection can make you feel disconnected from your body. Same way sickness can. And I sang to somebody named Harry because I just like the idea of male singers singing to male partners or something. Because then when it's covered, you know, like you have like these haunting songs that are written by dudes originally, but the dudes don't have the range. So whenever I write like a love song, I try to use like a guy's name, so that way if it ever gets covered by a lady, it'll sound more natural. Because their range is always better than mine. So you can do a lot of implied melodies that, like, when it gets covered by a great lady singer, she's gonna dance all over it, you know. I guess it don't really matter either way. Most of the time when I'm singing about love, it's not really about love. As I think most anyone who is older will tell you, relationships, adult relationships, after 30 years old are rarely ever about love. It's usually about material situation. Somebody needs their mortgage paid. Somebody needs a place to live. It's never love. The song's called Big Smoke, Loud Smoke from the Hip. This one's supposed to kind of sound like it's struggling. I wanted the guitar to be a little out of tune and the vocals to sound a little strained. Kind of like if you walked up on somebody busking or something, which I used to do that as a teenager. I was a street performer in New Orleans, and I always wish I had like a field recorder, because some college students would come by every now and then. They would bring a field recorder and they would record me singing, and they'd let me listen to it, and they'd tell me they were going to send me the files. They never did. But it'd be interesting to have those recordings because some of those were kind of cool. Hearing the people walk around in the background and hearing my young voice out there in the streets crooning to strangers that were just walking by. I was way more brave back then about that type of thing, or less considerate, honestly. This is also, I think, one of two songs on the record that's tuned differently. This is drop D, or actually open D tuning, I believe, with a capo on a 5-string guitar. That cost me, well, it didn't cost me anything. One of my exes left a guitar at my house. I told her to come by and pick it up before I left Huntsville. And I don't think she had time to, so I've had the guitar in my possession now for like 3 years. It's just like a cheap little guitar, but I've written maybe 170 songs on it. I grew up using cheap, fucked up guitars. First tour I went on, I had an Ibanez RG series, the one that was like $100 with an amp. So I've just always been used to using cheap guitars when I'm writing music, and it just makes for more interesting timbre on the guitars because the action's a little different on every song. Nothing sounds uniform, and that might be something that some people hate about it, but to me it makes like a full hour of listening to music interesting to hear. Like each song almost sounds like it's done in a different room, different vibe, even different folks, even though it's all me playing every instrument, me recording. There's definitely different moods going on. And recording the same kind of janky guitar at a bunch of different positions over 30 different songs, you come out with some interesting stuff. This one's called Born with Big Sin. And I think this one's kind of about trying really hard not to be a reactionary, trying really hard to exit death cult denial, like death denial, and trying to recapture yourself in your brain and the symbols you use in your head to identify yourself. I used to be terrified. I just wanted to be a really good person. I didn't want to burn forever. Essentially, that's just what it was. Did not want to burn forever. So I felt like as a kid, I felt that weight on me all the time. Anytime we were in a church, I was thinking about that type of stuff. And then worry about it the entire week. Go back to church, worry some more. Just had an extreme anxiety about going to church. I'm talking like maybe 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old. Eventually I stopped going because I asked too many of the wrong questions and I was weird, I guess, because I was terrified. really wanted to know what was going to cause me to burn forever. So that's one of the choruses about stuff that just chills me out, which is biscuits, which is like literally like buttermilk biscuits or like just whatever, cornbread, simple food, peace, a little green for my mind. And I think there's a lot of folks that feel this way, but if you grow up around a bunch of loud, crazy bullshit all the time, when you get older, you really appreciate your peace. If you grow up knowing any kind of hunger, when you get older, you can appreciate simple stuff. It's probably why I also, I love cooking. Not only did I do it for a living, but I just enjoy cooking, watching the food turn, cutting up everything, putting it all together, watching it come together, become a different thing. I just appreciate having groceries, which I think is why I can still write relevant songs. I think at some point people become, join a different class or something, But I'm always kind of writing my first record ever because I'm still out here, so to speak, living off my heart. No label, nobody managing my work or anything. So I still have these songs that bite, still based in reality. At least I think that's why. Seems easy to write songs. I enjoy doing it, A theme usually pops up, and if I write one or two songs about the theme, then it's usually like my brain just wants to auto-complete. It's like, what is this whole theme about? How do you fully address every part of this? How do you look at it a bunch of different ways? This song's called End of Death. It's the beginning of us. Which is back to the death denial thing, that if you can beat death denial, you can kind of finally let go. When I was younger, I would get really obsessed about what did death feel like. Like when I was 8 or 9 years old, I would think about closing my eyes and never being able to open them again. And like all the shadows in the room becoming darker and darker until it swallows the whole room. And then everything you've ever known just being blackness, darkness, like absence of light. And I thought about this as a kid. Because the sermons at church, almost all of them were about who's going to hell. It's all about the afterlife. It's all about these bodies. They're just holders, placeholders. So even at a young age, it made me think about, what it feels like to have a body, what my interior monologue was, and how it feels like there's a distance between my consciousness and my body. And I would really obsess over that. And I would obsess about, like, if you're not connected to your body, what are you? What do you see things with? And it's like, it's all blackness. It's like, well, you wouldn't need to see anything. You wouldn't need eyeballs. You wouldn't need a frontal cortex. You wouldn't need any part of your brain. You wouldn't, and I kept taking everything to its logical conclusion. And it made me feel like I was in a Twilight Zone episode. Which is probably where my body dysmorphia started. Also, being a visual artist, you do drawing studies, and if you're like a big guy like me, I was always bigger than everybody. So when I do self-portraits, I'd notice how big my ears were and how big my head was, and how I looked in a chair versus how my peers looked in a chair. And I felt like oblong and weird and strange, disconnected from myself. And on top of that, I had the church stuff going on. So it was just I've always struggled with like the material world and feeling despiritualized and alienated from myself and my body, my identity. And I just feel healthier that I let it go. Because once you get past the big ideas and the big questions, you realize either way, you all have to project the meaning. This song's called Spit Hill. This one's very literally just what it felt like being sick, and I felt like I was dying, and I took mental notes. I think I might have even wrote some of these lyrics just laying in the hospital. I've never had my legs swell up before with my heart condition. My feet were swollen, legs were swollen, my abdomen, just my gut, my belly, everything. It's painful to move, couldn't sleep at all for multiple months.
Sacks of pain, holding water behind my knees.
And that's kind of the culmination of the whole album. This is learning how to accept your death. How much easier everything gets once you accept death. Sometimes when they tell you that you shouldn't let go, that's when you need to let go. And trying to fight the nature of your body, it's not always the good idea. Sometimes you gotta accept defeat. Can't feel bad about letting go on some things. The healthiest thing you can do with some things is let them go. Let them go.
Then stare at the ceiling, pushing pain in the hip.
The guitar is really buzzing. But there was a weird vibe going on between the guitar and the vocals, which it gives off the I don't know what you would call it.
To sit up on the bed, sinking like a coffin.
With my AFib, I couldn't really breathe, so I couldn't talk, like get excited and talk, you know. So I couldn't really sing very well. So I was trying to do this breathy, melodic vocal in my head voice that's a little flawed, wispy timbre, you know, a strong melody to hold it all together. This feeling of I've been betrayed by my body. I've never been lonelier, and I can't breathe very well. And I'm singing to a rainy window pane in an ICU bedroom, you know? That's what it felt like. Knowing that bill was gonna be insane. And boy was it. So not only are you sick, but you gotta pay an insane bill now. You're already behind because you've been sick for months. And it feels like it can't get worse. That's why sometimes letting go feels like the better option.